Based down in the south. I've been with the company about just over 3 years now. I've been in this industry around 5. I was studying to be an architect, and then I copped out for a company car and more money, so I'm a bit of a sellout, but we'll give this a go. We're going to be looking at our specifying tiling in swimming pools presentation today. So just to give you a brief overlook at Ardex, we're a German company. We're founded in 1949. We're placed in a place called Witten. Probably the closest city is Düsseldorf or Dortmund, if you know your geography in Germany. Company founded in 1949, employed just over 3,900 employees. Turnover is about 1.2 billion. It's quite a large company. And essentially, the Ardex Group is an amalgamation of a number of different companies. It's not just Ardex UK. We also own, you probably are familiar with Bow, Weddy, Dunlop, just to name a few in the UK. Now, by no stretch of the imagination are we experts in tiles. We're experts in tile fixing. And apart from aesthetics, it's important to consider the following factors when selecting your tiles. We need to make sure that they've got great thermal shock values, slip resistance. Obviously, the color, size, and finish is the fun bit that you guys get to decide, or the client gets to decide. We need products that have got good abrasion levels, and obviously slip resistance is one of the most important things when picking tiles to go inside a swimming pool or in a wet area. So probably the most decided or picked tile style in a pool would be a mosaic. There are a couple of considerations that need to be given to mosaics. The first is within the tile backing mesh. The tile backing mesh needs to be stuck with a water-resistant adhesive. Now, if you speak to any of the guys, well, there's a number of different tile suppliers here. If you speak to any of them, they'll be able to give you guidance on the correct mosaics to use. We also suggest that the tile backing mesh should not occupy any more than 25% of the tesserae area. And it's a fairly simple fact. The tile needs to stick to the adhesive. We don't want to stick to the mesh itself. We want to stick to the tile. The tile body itself should also have less than 3% water absorption. We should be sticking that tile with a suitable adhesive and grout. And if you are specifying glass mosaics, ideally you should be using a white adhesive as opposed to a grey adhesive. A grey adhesive will obviously show through the back of a glass tile. Now, there's a number of different ways that we can measure slip resistance. In the UK, we have the pendulum test. I mean, the pendulum test become popular in the UK, just I would say due to the fact that it's a portable test, so you can take it to different sites, test your tiles there. I mean, realistically, we're looking for tiles that achieve 36 PTV or more in wet areas. We shouldn't be aiming for less. Oh, sorry. There we go, we're back. And actually in Europe, they've got quite a funny way of testing it. So they have something called the ramp test. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen this before. They essentially take a subject, hoist them up on the ramp, steadily decline the ramp until that person falls off, and that gives them their slip resistance rating. So obviously slightly different to the way we do things. Now, obviously, when constructing a concrete pool, we are going to be sticking either a waterproof membrane, a render, or a screed to the concrete subbase or the concrete pool shell. One of the most important things is preparation. We should be preparing our concrete shell before sticking anything to it. There's a few ways that we can prepare a concrete pool shell: scabbling, grinding, shot blasting, just to name 3. You've also got high-powered water jets. Realistically, what we're aiming to do is expose the aggregates in the concrete. We don't want to be sticking to latents, to retardants, to release agents. We want to be sticking to the concrete pool shell itself. So we want to be exposing the aggregates and sticking to the aggregates within that shell. Obviously, one of the things that we will be adhering potentially to a concrete slab would be a screed. Now, a screed is not always necessary in the bottom of a pool, especially not for a residential project. More or less for commercial projects, we'll tend to use a screed in the base. The screed should always be bonded. Now, I don't know if we all know the difference between the three types of screeds. We've got unbonded, bonded, and floating. Within a pool base, it needs to be bonded. The thing that distinguishes a bonded screed is its thickness. So a bonded screed typically will be anywhere from 25 to 40 mil, and that's stated within BS 8204, within the Code of Practice. And a bonded screed is very indicative to the name. It's a screed that's actually bonded to the subfloor. Okay, moving away from screeds onto screed mixing. Now, we always state in every specification that we issue to a contractor that the mix should be specified by weight, okay? Now, the reason we do this, 2 buckets of sand, they might look the exact same, but they could have a complete different volume in them. One bucket of sand could be wet, the other bucket of sand could be patted or pushed down. We just don't know. So the easiest way to do it is by weight. This will then only give us a maximum error of about 5%. So most screed mixes are going to be probably 1:4 or 1:5, really depends. 4:1, I should say, not 1:4. We also state in all of our specifications that the sand and cement screed should be mixed to a workable and compatible mix by a force action mixer. Now, if no one's familiar with a force action mixer, the two on the left, force action mixers, and obviously this is a brickies mixer. The difference between the two, a force action mixer uses a paddle, so it mixes with a paddle. What we're aiming to do with a screed is get a proper thorough mix. We're aiming to essentially activate those polymers in the screed. With a brickies mixer, obviously the mixture is just going to fall on top of itself, so it's not going to get a thorough mix. Okay, rendering. Now, renders differ company to company. Now, for a traditional sand and cement render, the Code of Practice states that these should be a maximum of 20 mil, okay? And we should also prime with maybe an SBR when we're going onto, say, a concrete wall. There are other products on the market, products that we supply that will go up to 30 mil, and these obviously do go against what the standards say, but if you are using a traditional sand and cement render, it needs to stick within those parameters. We would also suggest that the top coat is weaker and thinner than the base coat if it's applied in 2 layers. We should never be applying something thicker onto a thinner layer. Now, this is quite an interesting slide because it just gives us an idea of timescales for constructions of pools. Now, some of these are taken out of BS 5385, which is the tiling standard. Now, we would suggest that you wait at least 6 weeks between curing of the pool shell and rendering or screeding. This is essentially just to allow for shrinkage. We need to wait for the pool shell to shrink before we adhere anything to it. If we adhere something to it, it will delaminate. We should be waiting about 3 weeks between completion of rendering or screeding and the commencement of tile fixing. This is if we're using a traditional render or a traditional screed. Obviously, these figures can vary if you're using rapid dry screeds, such products that we supply. We should be waiting 3 days, usually between completion of the tile fixing and the commencement of grouting. Again, these can change if you use a rapid dry tile adhesive. Obviously, these are off the basis of a sort of standard product, not a rapid product or a polymer modified product.
Are these slides available to us afterwards?
Yeah, I can send you the presentation over. That's absolutely fine.
Saves you making a lot of notes.
No, you're fine. I'll send you the presentation over.
In actual fact, as well as that, all of this is being recorded on film and will be available at a later date. I can't tell you exactly when, but that will be available online, hopefully within a couple of weeks.
And how do we get the slides as well?
I can send them over to you. So if you have a chat with me after, we can exchange emails. That's fine. If you want to watch the video, I'd be quite surprised. This bores me just talking about this, if I'm going to be honest. And then between completion of the grouting, movement joints, and the filling of the pool, usually we should be waiting 3 weeks. I mean, that's what it says within the British standards. Now, obviously, with rapid drying technology and rapid hardening products that we supply, you can greatly reduce these timescales. A traditional screed, you should be really waiting a minimum of about 3 weeks prior to tiling. With our rapid drying screeds, they allow installation after just 3 to 4 hours. So our screed at any thickness will dry fully in 3 hours. The way it does this is, if you can imagine a traditional screed when it dries, the water has to leave the product and reach equilibrium with its environment. Okay. With our screeds, the water crystallizes and becomes a solid within the screed. So it allows the screeds to dry any thickness. You could go up to 300 mil and it will dry still at 3 hours. You could tile on the product after 5 hours. I think it says 4 on here, and even with our renders, they allow tiling just after 2 hours. Obviously, a traditional render, you're looking at 2 weeks for it to dry. What's happened? Hold on, sorry. Oh, there we go. So just to give you a look at some of the products that we do supply, and obviously if you are interested, you can come and have a chat with us on the Ardex stand. We've got our Ardex A18 bonding grout. This is used to bond screeds to their substrate. We've got our A38 that's walkable in 3 hours, and I was right, it does say 4 hours to tile on. Suitable for internal and external use. We've got our Ardex AM100, which is our rapid set one coat tiling render, which has the ability to tile in 2 hours and allows us to have a bed depth of 2 to 30 mil. And then we've got our Ardex S7 Plus, which is our flexible waterproof coating system. So essentially we've got the full system from the screed all the way up to the tile. Annoyingly, I don't get to sell the tile, that's the fun bit. I have to sell all the concrete that sticks it. Okay, just before we finish up, I'm just going to go over, briefly go over tile adhesives and grouts. So obviously adhesives do play a pivotal role in sticking tiles to the wall. It really frustrates me. I meet with architects all the time, or contractors. They'll spend £150 a square metre on a tile, but they'll moan about spending £14 on a bag of adhesive. It just does not make any sense at all. Tile adhesives are classified into domestic, contract and specialist. Your domestic tile adhesives are your dispersion and your paste adhesives. These are ready mixed adhesives that set through drying. These aren't suitable for pools at all. These should be used in wet rooms or in small residential projects. Your contract adhesives are your cement-based powder adhesives. This is essentially a bag of powder you mix with water, forms a chemical reaction, and creates the product. These are probably your most commonly used adhesives within a swimming pool. We then have our specialist, which are our reaction resin adhesives. These are our 2 or 3 part adhesives that are mixed with each other and then they chemically react to form a bond. So reaction resin adhesives are commonly used to stick to tricky substrates. So steel, so plastic, to fiberglass, all sorts of materials. You could go onto existing tiles using a reaction resin adhesive. They've got many uses. Obviously the downside of them is that they're extremely expensive. So we'd always advise you going for a contract adhesive where you can. Now, adhesives are classified into 3 main sections. Obviously our cementitious, dispersion and reaction resin. And on each bag of adhesive they have this randle. So if you've ever worked with an adhesive before, you'll see this randle, okay? And it gives specific stats. So for a cementitious adhesive, it will give either C1 or C2, okay? Now the difference between C1 or C2 is essentially its tensile strength. So a C1 adhesive has a tensile strength greater than 0.5 newtons per square mil. A C2 is greater than 1 newton per square mil. Now to put that into perspective into layman's terms, if we take, say, a beer mat, for example, an area the size of a beer mat could take about 1 ton of force just off of that small space. So adhesives are very much over-engineered. Okay, they don't need to be able to carry a Mini Cooper off of a Metro-style tile, but they can. It's the same with dispersions. They're categorized D1 and D2, and then reaction resins sit on their own category. We then have classifications, so FTE. F stands for fast setting, T reduced slip, and E extended open time. Fast setting means how quickly does this product dry, how quickly can I grout the product. T is reduced slip. It means once I stick that tile on the wall, how much will that tile move? So obviously, if we're working in a pool with quite large format tiles, we want something with reduced slip, because it's going to allow us to bed the tiles in and allow us to get a nice level surface. Extended open time, how long have I got to work with that product before it's not suitable to be worked with anymore? Okay, now tile grouts are exactly the same. They're categorized either cementitious or reaction resin. We then have CG1, CG2W, CG2A, and CG2WA. All of our products are CG2WA. I'm not going to go into it because we're running out of time, and I need to get fewer more. Are we okay? Okay, we'll go into it then. CG2W are grouts with improved cementitious grouts with additional characteristics of reduced water absorption. Okay, so you need these in pools essentially. CG2A are improved cementitious grouts with additional characteristics of high abrasion resistance, and then CG2WA are grouts with both of those characteristics in. Now, there's obviously a few drawbacks to using cementitious grouts. We would always suggest in a pool where you can use a reaction resin grout. They're miles better. Cementitious-based grouts are great for areas with hard water. The minute we've got any area with soft water, it will eat away at the grout, and I'll explain why in just a moment. If your pool gets out, if the pool's not correctly balanced, it will destroy the cementitious grout. Obviously, cementitious grout is great if we've got a normal cleaning regime. It's great for ancillary areas and changing rooms. But ideally, if you can, and if you've got the budget, I would always pick a reaction resin grout. The reason being, these are wipe down grouts, okay? They're not going to get stained, they're not going to get discolored. They're going to be able to deal with soft water and hard water. They're going to be able to deal with aggressive pool water, intense cleaning. Also in areas, for example, if we're doing, say, a project at Centre Parks and we've got water rides, over time, the constant movement of water will eat away at a cementitious grout, whereas a reaction resin grout will go unscathed. We're not experts on pool chemicals by no stretch of the imagination. I know pretty much nothing about them. To put this in layman's terms, cement-based mortars, grouts, adhesives, renders, and screeds contain calcium-based minerals. The chemicals and effects of the pool water can impact on your choice of adhesive and grout. And the reason being, soft water is hungry and it will dissolve calcium salts out of cement. Now, in every cementitious product, you've got calcium salts. So if we've got soft water, that is going to dissolve all the grout and that's going to essentially affect the adhesive behind it. So you're going to get a complete failure. Hard water obviously is full of calcium salts and will deposit them in the form of scale. So if anyone lives down south, you know what the state of our kettle gets like. That's essentially going to happen on the face of your tiles. Therefore, it's important to ensure that the pool water is correctly balanced. So it's fairly straightforward. Okay, and before we finish up, adhesive application. This is the most annoying thing I see in my job is this slide right here. And you'd be surprised how much I see this. We should always be solid bed fixing tiles, okay, using the correct notch size. The reason being is, if you walk over a tile that looks like this with a pair of high heels on, the force alone, just the point loading alone, will snap straight through that tile. Also, within a pool, water, it will get past a cementitious grout. So water will get behind the tiles. And what it will do is it will sit in these crevices between the blobs. And inevitably, the water will push the tiles off. So we should always have a solid bed fix. I see it in pubs all the time. It drives me crazy. You'll see like one tile fall off the wall. And I think my girlfriend must think I'm the saddest man in the world for complaining about stuff like this. Look, and literally the last slide, movement joints, obviously extremely important to install intermediate joints at 6mm intervals in pools. We shouldn't be installing structural movements in the pool shell. That should be avoided, definitely. We should also be installing movement joints at any changes of plane in a pool base. So obviously, if you've got a flat level pool, you get a slope, we need a movement joint between that. I mean, our go-to product for movement joints in a pool is not one of ours. It's a product by Arbicol. Arbicol produce some of the best sealants for pools and silicons. Okay, And if you want to listen to us talk about concrete and cement even more, you're more than welcome to come and visit us at the Ardex Academy. We put on demonstrations pretty much weekly regarding swimming pools, hard flooring, tiling, levelling, all sorts of stuff, anything cement-based basically. And you can actually come and see some of the products demonstrated live. And obviously what we can offer technical advice, we can offer site support, we can do free moisture testing for you, we can offer you a specification service which is done by myself, and we can offer you full site training. Okay. There you go, and that's just an example of some of the products. But if you want to come and have a look, we've got some on our stands. We've got so much silicon left, so someone please come and take some. Because we need to give it away, otherwise poor Phil, our marketing man, has to carry it in his car. There you go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Charlie. If anybody's got any questions they want to ask now, fine. I'll come to you with the microphone so that everybody can hear. If not, Charlie, you're going to be on